Hello YouTube. So I'm doing a quick, or not, rather, it's not a quick rendezvous video, it'll be a longer rendezvous video. So I was getting some comments saying that some people have had some issues having their craft actually get together, and my previous video does not include how to fix yourself when you're in really weird orbits. So as we can see here, these orbits are almost completely opposite. This is going counterclockwise, and this is going clockwise around Minmus. Now I'm doing this tutorial around Minmus only because the delta V required to change really anything in orbit should be much lower than it would be around Kerbin, as well as it being an easy destination to get to for most people. Not everyone though. I'll do a tutorial on how to get to Minmus eventually. So one of the things that I've learned over the years of docking is that the closer you are to a body, the more expensive the changes are in the it's more expensive to change your orbital characteristics while you're close to a planet. But if you're further away, it's much easier, and if your goal is to just dock to craft, it shouldn't be too bad. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to pretend that this craft here, this docker, is out of fuel. It isn't, but we're going to pretend that it is, kind of like one of the rescue missions that you might have in the campaign. So currently these craft are going in opposite directions, like I said, entirely. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to correct that direction. And also let's set target so we have it there as a reference. So because we are on Minmus, the requirement to change direction is not that much. I need a lower time warp. Okay, so we need to get in the correct direction first. That is 75 kilometers, so we want to get our periapsis at 75 kilometers. Perfect. Now if you go to the descending node next to match planes, so first you have to match direction. So as we can see here, if I can zoom up real quick, we are now traveling in the same relative direction. Alright, so let's get to the descending node. You could use either the AN or the DN. It doesn't really matter. The second goal is you must match planes. I'm not going to use this for the purpose of this video in case you have not unlocked that yet. I did for the retrograde because that's the first thing you unlock, and I wasn't thinking ahead of time. Okay, so ascending is going north, descending is going south. If this marker wasn't here, you'd want to burn at 180. But the marker is there, so we're going to follow this purple triangle here until our nodes are close to 0 as we can possibly get them. Alright, that is probably as close as we're going to get them today. Alright, the next thing you do is to have this match up with something on the orbit, or have the apoapsis match up with the orbit. So we'll bring down the apoapsis for now. We could have docked right there, but we need to match our orbits first. I said I wasn't going to use those, but I am. I'm sorry. Alright. So we could do it when one of these meets, but it's not always necessary. And it is necessary to have the meet eventually. So as we can see here, these two have met. We've slowed down. Now, if our orbit dips below this, we will go faster than the targeted spacecraft. As you can see here, the dotted line is the target spacecraft. The non-colored dotted line is your spacecraft. So let's turn around and go to prograde, because the orbits must cross at least once in order for you to get an intersection. Alright, so we have an intersection here. It's getting closer. And since we are, I guess we're close to it, so our orbital periods should match up somewhat. Let's get this below 10 kilometers. Anything within 10 kilometers, you're fine. I'm going to do it at 10 kilometers just to show you how to approach once you're in that range. So these orbital periods are about the same. We got 66 kilometers and 307 versus 295 and 75. Now, normally you won't have them that similar, but for the purpose of this video, that's just how these orbits lined up. Alright, so now we're going to time warp close to the rendezvous point. I do plan on doing a 3-minute tutorial on this eventually, but those take a little bit more effort to get done. A lot of post-editing and a voiceover. So you guys get to hear all my mistakes now. Alright, perfect. Let's get to this point. Okay, so as you can see here, the target is moving either closer or away at 10 meters per second. Turn off RCS, you don't need to be wasting that right now. First thing you need to do is cancel that velocity by going retrograde. Get as close to 0 as you can, and then you want to point at target. Go to the map view and see if you can get a close intersection that is closer than 10 kilometers. 1.9, that is within loading distance. And we only expended 9 meters per second delta V for that. So we're going to get closer. Alright, and for the rest of this, you pretty much repeat what we just did until you are within docking range. So once again, we're going to burn retrograde until our relative velocity of target is 0, or close to it. And we're going to burn towards target. Alright. Mimus has a drastic change in orbits. That's why we're using it. It's a little bit cheaper. Alright, so we will be meeting up with this relatively soon. Hopefully we don't collide with it. Let's speed up a little bit. You don't want to hit it on accident. Okay, so we just flew past it, and you want to cancel velocities to target. In case I forgot to mention, the way you change this is by clicking on this. And then from here on out, since we are really close to it, or we were, it's right there, it's an identical version of this craft, and this is just junior docking port, this, some parachutes to get back, a light so we can dock in the night, a larger fuel tank than necessary, and a very large RCS tank with some RTGs. So we have power and enough RCS for mistakes. We're going to keep this to less than 5 meters per second from here on out. And as soon as you get your velocity heading towards the target, you want to go to retrograde. Don't thrust quite yet. You want to get as close as you can safely. It might even be necessary to turn on RCS and shift one direction so you don't hit it directly. Then you're going to cancel velocity. Perfect. Alright, so we're going to pretend this is a dead craft. It has no SAS. It does have electric power, so the lights can turn on because they're RTG, but we're going to pretend that it is a dead craft, no SAS, no pilot, no RCS, and that we need to dock with it. So you want to, using the WAS keys, get parallel, or as parallel as you can with it, and back up. Target the docking port. Use your docking port to control from. And back up a little bit until you see the target reticle, as you can see in the nav ball. Then you cancel velocity to target once more. And start approaching it. Now you want your prograde marker to be about twice what the target marker is. And you use the I, J, K, L keys to maneuver it up, left, right, and down. Up and down is inverted like flight, and H and N is how you control your speed to target. So if I hit N right now, it'll cancel the speed to target. And we are having close to a textbook docking here. The nav ball is the most important thing to keep a look on, but if you're not parallel, you want to fix that as soon as you can. So we need to fix it just a little bit. It's not super important for these small craft, but for larger craft, if they are not perfectly parallel, you will have a bad time. They will just bounce off each other all day. But you should not have any issues with smaller craft like these. And now if we wanted to fix our orbit, we can, or we can transfer crew or fuel or what have you. But as you can see, that other pod was not empty. Now, if the pods are not empty and you have control of both craft, let's back up here. Right, let's have this spinning, and let's have this one spinning. Go back to this one. Turn on SAS, and you want to target, and find the target reticle. Cancel velocity as always. And when you have two craft, it makes life much easier because you don't need to be perfectly parallel all the time. You select the other craft, put SAS on, control from there, select the other craft's docking port as well. Then you just point towards its target marker, which is... I'm having difficulty finding it. I could just look up here, I guess, but you want to get used to using the nav ball as much as you can. Now, on a larger craft, you do want to use some... is this even targeted? No, it's not. That's why I don't see it. I'm silly. Alright, and just point it towards that, and then you can start thrusting towards it, like before. And then just keep on adjusting, making sure that both are pointed directly at each other, and you'll be fine. So here we are a little bit misaligned, but nothing too crazy. Let's slow down. Let's point towards this, using the WAS keys, and point towards this, using the WAS keys, and perfect. It's a lot easier to dock two craft when they're not dead, but because you can get them parallel much faster. If this was a space station, you might not be able to do that because they are a little bit more difficult to move due to the attached parts. But this has been Awaken with a rather long rendezvous tutorial with awkward orbits, and thank you all for watching. If there are any questions, leave them in the comments, and I will cover them in the next version of the rendezvous videos. Thank you very much.